Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
'Well, hello again, and welcome to episode 199 of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, brought to you in partnership with bcsoccerweb.com, your one-stop site for all your local, national and international news and links. Visit them on bcsoccerweb.com. I'm your host, Michael McCall. Hope you enjoyed Sunday's show with Steve, Zach and Gideon, having a look back at the Whitecaps win against Atlanta, the Canadian Championship loss, and a chat with Bernie Ibini, and lots more as well. For this episode, we're turning our attention away from club football and onto the international scene. We've got a lot to bring you, and we're going to kick it off with a couple of international Whitecaps. Costa Rican international Whitecaps. Kendall Waston and Christian Bolanos have headed off now to join the Costa Rican national team for two huge World Cup qualifiers that are coming up this week. They had a nice send-off on Saturday with the Caps win over Atlanta. 2 goals from Kendall Waston, set up the third as well for Timmy Parker / Freddie Montero, whichever way you want to look at that. But now their attention is firmly focused on Costa Rica and trying to get the team to qualify for another World Cup finals over in Russia in 2018. And the Ticos are sitting in a good position right now. Second in the Hex, 3 points behind leaders Mexico after 4 games played. The top 3 in the Hex automatically qualify for Russia. Right now that's Mexico, Costa Rica and Panama. The 4th place team goes on to have a 2-legged playoff that you don't really want to have against the 5th placed Asian side. And in the Asian qualifying there's 3 games still left to be played in this round. And if things stay as they are just now, the 4th place team in CONCACAF's Hex is going to play either Uzbekistan or Australia. Tough games for sure, and Costa Rica are wanting to make sure that they are not in the position of having to go through that playoff. They want to sew up their automatic qualification as soon as they can. And with the 2 games that they've got coming up this week, they've got a great chance of basically having at least 1 foot in the finals, almost a foot and a half. And when you look at Costa Rica's qualification campaign today, it's actually remarkable that they are sitting in 2nd place. 3 of their first 4 games have been away from home, and they've come away from that with a win at Trinidad and Tobago, a draw with Honduras, and a 2-0 defeat at Mexico. Their only home game so far, of course, came against the US with that fantastic 4-0 win that they had. And that kind of set them on the road to a great qualification campaign. Now they've got 2 massive home games coming up. Thursday, June 8th, the day that this podcast is coming out, they're at home to Panama. That match is taking place in San Jose. 5 days later, in the same stadium, Trinidad and Tobago come calling. And if Costa Rica can get 6 points from those 2 games, it's really going to set them up. They're basically going to have clinched a place in the finals and another appearance at the World Cup finals, which for Christian Bolanos would be his 3rd, but for Kendall Waston it would be his 1st. So I got a chance to speak to Kendall Waston last week at Whitecaps training, before the game in Atlanta and before he headed off to join his Tico teammates on Sunday. Just talking about the qualification campaign so far, how exciting it is to be that close to the finals, and what it would mean to him personally to represent his country at a World Cup finals. So let's hear now from Saturday's man of the match, Whitecaps centre-back, Kendall Waston. So 2 big games coming up for Costa Rica on the 8th and the 11th. 2 home games as well. It must be nice at this stage of the Hex to have those 2 crucial games at home.
Yes, totally, because we need to win both games to try to have almost a spot in the World Cup to qualify. So we are very excited, and hopefully we can have those six important points.
And it's been a great start to this stage of the qualifying for Costa Rica so far. You don't want to look too far ahead, but you must be really confident that you're going to make it to the World Cup.
Well, at this moment we doesn't know, because we still have other complicated games. US is ahead. Mexico is on the top. So here you doesn't know, but in these 2 games are crucial, because if we win it, we win both games. Basically, we only need around 1-2 points to qualify. So we are just thinking on win the 6 first points.
And you've played in an under-20 World Cup, funnily enough, here in Vancouver. What would it mean to you personally to have that World Cup experience? Is it hard not to think too far ahead of what it might be like if you get to go to Russia?
Well, I think any player would love to play a World Cup. So for me, it's very important to qualify and try to obviously be there. But at first, this is the hardest part, to qualify. After being in the World Cup, I think is like the enjoying moment.
How good is this Costa Rica team? The last couple of years, the whole programme at all levels seems to be really, really doing well. You gave a good account of yourself last year at Copa America as well. How good do you see this Costa Rica squad?
I think that from the World Cup coming back now, everything helps that most of the players are playing outside the country. They're playing in Europe. So that helps to improve the quality of the game. So all of those things and the competition in the leagues that they are playing, it helps when we get united in the national team to have a better, like a show like a better type of game.
That's great. Thank you so much. Good luck in these 2 games. Thanks, Kendall. So Kendall Waston there talking about all things Costa Rica, and he's really excited about these games. He's not wanting to look too far ahead, but you have to feel that Kendall, Bola, all the Costa Rican squad just now, they must know that if they can get 6 points from these 2 home games, they're as good as in. And if you've listened to previous podcasts, you'll have heard me chat to Bola a little bit about Costa Rica in this World Cup campaign, and he revealed to us that this is going to be his last sort of year and a bit playing with the national team. So he wants to go out with a bang. He wants to have his 3rd appearance in a World Cup finals, and it's going to be fantastic for him if and when that comes about. For Kendall as well, his first appearance is going to be really special and meaningful for him. He did play, of course, as we mentioned there, in the Under-20 World Cup in 2007, played games in Canada, in Vancouver for Costa Rica. But to be with the senior team in Russia, it's just going to be an amazing experience for him. And the international games are coming fast for Costa Rica. After these 2 qualifiers this month, next month they head to the US for the Gold Cup. And both Bola and Kendall are on Costa Rica's preliminary 40-man squad. No real surprises there. But I had a chance to catch up with Bola recently just to ask him what his plans are for the summer. Is he planning to go with the squad to play in the Gold Cup, or is this a chance for the Costa Rican coach to maybe blood some younger guys and kind of have a little bit of a mix, give Bola a little bit of a rest? And you might be interested with what he said, and here is exactly what he said. This summer, the Gold Cup's on.
Yeah.
Do you know, are you going to be involved in that, or is your plan to kind of let the younger guys be in that team and maybe have this summer here with the Whitecaps?
Soon we have 2 games, really important in Costa Rica. qualification.
Oh, yeah,
to the World Cup.
Yeah.
So and then is coming the World Cup. So I just heard the coach want me to bring me there too. But I don't know. It's too soon to see what's going on. I just try to be all the time here, to be in a good shape, to be ready for the games. We see what's going on. I have good relationship with my coach in Costa Rica, and if we need some time to just stay here and take some easy days, just to be in a good shape to think what is coming, the next games, who is important for me, who is important for, both parts. So, but I'm very happy right now. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks so much. Cheers, Paula. So from a Whitecaps point of view, selfishly, you kind of want Bola to stay here in the summer. We're going to lose Kendall. We're not losing Timmy Parker. He wasn't named in the 40-man preliminary US squad. Bit of a surprise to me. I honestly thought he would be mentioned at least in the 40-man squad. Maybe wasn't confident that he would go to the Gold Cup. But it is a chance to blood these young guys, give them a taste of the international game. But to not even be included in the 40-man squad with the season that he's having, baffling to me. Great for the Whitecaps though, we've got him here. Don't really want to lose him and Kendall the way the centre-back situation is at the moment. And of course the tricky centre-back situation with the Whitecaps has been brought upon by Christian Dean having an injury and David Edgar being out for a season-long injury. Both big blows to the Whitecaps not having these guys to call upon. Parker and Waston have been phenomenal at the back for the Whitecaps, but we are going to lose Kendall for pretty much all of July. Dean is back training. You would expect him and Parker to be the centre-back pairing going forward as long as Dean can stay healthy. Cole Seiler got a little taste beside Parker in the Champions League game out in Montreal in the second leg. Wasn't a great performance from Seiler in that. So you kind of really do hope that Dean can be healthy and be good to go with Parker. But the loss of Edgar is definitely going to be felt, especially in July. And I had the chance to sit down with David Edgar a couple of weeks ago. We were going to bring it a couple of podcast episodes ago, but then we ran out of time that week, and then I decided to keep it for this kind of internationally themed episode. So I got a chance to speak to David about his injury, what he's doing to occupy his time now that he's not able to play this season. Or is he not able to play this season? We'll cover that. Also a little chat about Canada's Gold Cup hopes and the Canadian Premier League. Here's David Edgar.
In a time when hats were hats, I had no Canadian flag, just a sign of David Roger, too scared to purchase larger. When I walk through the Clyde Valley, in the shadow of fiery Jack, I will fear no evil, wrapped in the Canadian flag.
So, David, first thing to ask you, I guess, how are you feeling after the injury?
Yeah, good. Obviously, it's been a slow process up to this point, and over the last 2 or 3 weeks, we're getting to a certain point where we can really kick on now.
Do you see yourself, I know it's a season-ending one for the first team, but do you see yourself able to take the pitch at all, maybe even with WFC2 or anything this year?
Yeah, I have got targets in my head that I'll sort of keep to myself in terms of when I'm thinking. Working hard with the medical staff, but definitely see some football in me before the season's out.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, the whole incident as well, like the hit and run and stuff, must have been a kind of terrifying time for you. One of the newspaper reports in Newcastle had said it was even possibly a career-ending injury. Was it that bad that at first they weren't even really sure? You know what? That was never discussed. I've never been in that mind frame. I wasn't sort of negative about it. The medical staff here has been excellent. The surgeons back in Ontario were excellent with me, and we were realistic in terms of what we talked about. But they know that I'm at an age where I can recover well, and that's just the way we've been looked at. We looked at it positively. Don't want to dwell on the incident, but it's like, has there been any fallout from it? Did they ever find the person or anything like that? You know what, that's sort of something that I'm pursuing off the pitch in terms of it's not really to be discussed. Okay. But it was just a frustrating freak accident, and it was tough to take in at the time, but
you've just got to move on, and I think I've done that quite well in terms of my mentality.
So moving on, you've been doing a commentator job with WFC2. I've just started doing colour commentary for the PDL team TSS Rovers.
Oh, okay.
So how have you found doing all that?
Yeah, it was good. I was really nervous. My wife said it was like it was a Saturday afternoon, and she said it was like I was getting nervous for my own games the way I did. So it was a good feeling to have that sort of nerves again. But I took it really seriously. Whether I want to do that in the future, I don't know. But it's just another string to my bow, I guess, in terms of, you know, you got to keep yourself occupied during these long-term injuries. I was lucky enough not to have. This will be my first one. So, but it's something I think I came at the right time. I know the game. I know. I've listened to a lot of commentary, watch all sorts of type of football, and I thought I could just give it a go, and the club's been fantastic and let me do it.
And what have you seen from this USL team? There's a lot of talent there, a couple of talented centre-backs. We saw Sim DeWitt get his chance on Tuesday night. What have you made of that team?
I've been really impressed watching them. It's been fun. I knew a lot of the players, but obviously some of the younger players have come in this year. I like to know about the club and who's here and who's coming up, and there's some real talents there, some good young players, and obviously I can. It's strange discussing them on the television, but it's good, and the boys they want to learn, and they want to get better, and they want to be in the first team. So it's massive for them.
Now, looking kind of at Canadian side, the Gold Cup's coming up this summer. We don't know whether it's going to be a young squad or kind of a mixture, but what do you see from this group just now? There's been a few veterans retire, but are you hopeful that they can make a good run this year? Yeah,
always hopeful. Again, the Canadian Soccer Association is in a bit of a transitional period with the new coach coming in, and he's running everything from grassroots up. He's taken the reins and all that, which is good, and we're all going to sort of go in the same direction. But we've got some good young players coming through. We've got the player pool in general is getting bigger. That's even with two of our top fantastic players. We don't know what Atiba's going to do in the future, but Julian's hung up his boots, and there's good young players to come in and fill their shoes there.
And the other big Canadian announcement was for the Premier League. Now, when you were growing up, obviously you left at an early age, you went over to Newcastle, but for other players there's not really been a lot of opportunities in Canada if they want to be pros. What do you think this league's going to mean for the game here? Yeah,
it's massive for soccer in Canada to get the league we've always needed and wanted, and if it's done properly and it's successful, it's a good outlet and a good pathway for young players, because the talent's here in Canada, but like you say, there hasn't been that outlet for them unless they were to go over to Europe, but passport issues and things like that restrict players, and some good young players. So I'm looking forward to it and looking to see how it all works out and how it pans out.
You've got a chance to watch the team from afar this year. The defence, it's completely different animal from what it was last year. What do you think it is that's kind of made that change this year?
You know what? It's a really together group here, and I can see that because I'm in the training room every day, and there's a great atmosphere, and there's boys. I mean, some of the performances you can see, we're talking bodies on the line, defending, but not just the back four, back five. Everyone's really bought into what we're doing here, and it's a good place. It's a good place to be right now. And even if some of the games you see that we didn't get results, we're playing well. It's always a good sign. You know we're going the right direction. So, but it's fantastic to see the back four doing well, and David doing well, and even Spencer Ritchie coming in and doing well. It's defending as a whole, taking a pride in it.
That's great. Thanks so much, and hope to see you back in the pitch.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
And I wear it for my lady, the Canadian flag, baby.
So David Edgar there. Certainly a scary injury that he had, and hopefully he does make a full recovery and we see him back on the pitch soon. Sadly, it won't be in MLS play, but if he could get back before the end of the season, get some minutes under his belt in USL, be a big help for the USL guys, but also gets him back in the frame for maybe some international games with Canada as well. And it's pretty certain that if Edgar had been healthy, he would have been away with the Canadian Gold Cup squad. The preliminary roster for that was announced this week as well. 5 current Whitecaps named to that preliminary 40-man squad. Few ex-players as well, such as Adam Straith and Keans Froese. Scarily, only 3 forwards are named on the list as well, so hopefully they're all going to be healthy and in good form. And we don't know yet how many of those 5 Whitecaps are going to make the final Gold Cup roster, but there is a danger that the Whitecaps could be without the services of Sam Adekugbe, Marco Bustos, Marcel de Jong, Russell Tybert, and new Canadian Alphonso Davies. The big news this week, of course, Alphonso Davies getting his Canadian citizenship. Congratulations to Alphonso. The video that the Whitecaps put out, the 18-minute video, just kind of chartering his life, the struggles he had in his early years, coming through the refugee camp, moving to Canada with his family, all that stuff. It was so heartwarming. It was emotional. It brought a tear to your eye, and just a great story. He's a guy that you just want to do so well because he seems so down to earth. There's a great bit in the video where he said how his mum didn't want him to move to Vancouver until he was maybe 17, 18, because she'd seen on TV what kids were like in the big cities and how they go off the rails. And he made a promise to her that he wouldn't change. And from all the times that we've spoken to him in the last couple of years, he hasn't. I first saw Alphonso, it was his very first match actually for the Whitecaps residency. Under 16 game, I think it was out in Cloverdale, 2015-16 season, and I was taking photos of him, watched the game, thought, he's a great player. Never thought for a minute how fast his journey would be to the top level that we've got today. And some of his performances of late, the 2 performances he put in against Montreal in the Canadian Championship, you know that he's got something special. I am a little torn with him being named to the Canadian senior team right away. I understand why you want to do it, plus you also want to cap him because obviously he does qualify to play for Liberia as well. But Canada is where his heart is, and it was always where he was going to choose to play. Pitching him in though at the senior international level right away does add a little bit more pressure onto his shoulders, but he does seem to be a guy that this pressure doesn't affect him. It's like water off a duck's back. So we wish him well. If he does go to the Gold Cup, I hope he lights it up, puts a few more extra million on his transfer ticket. But like I said, great story. Wish him nothing but the best. And we're going to bring you some audio now with Alphonso. We've had a couple of chats with him over the last year or so, as I said. But one of the more recent chats with him was by our good friend of the show, Harjeet Johal. She got a chance to catch up with Alphonso a couple of weeks back. Asked him about a lot of stuff, including what it would mean to him to play for Canada. So let's listen to that now.
How much has your family helped you to get where you are today?
My family helped me a ton, because family is a big part of my heart, big part of everyone's life. So I'm glad they're behind me the whole way.
When did you start playing football?
Started playing at a very young age, around 4 or 5.
And you got scouted by the Caps, or how did it start?
Yeah, I came here when I was 14 for a showcase, and they saw me play. So my
Edmonton.
Edmonton Strikers. Coach told me they want to bring you out for a trial, so I came out, played, and they're really impressed. So then they brought me in.
What kind of sort of advice you get and knowledge you get from your teammates?
They always tell me to keep my feet on the ground. When you go out there, play your game. Play like you're just playing around in the park with your friends, so have fun with it.
So because you're not afraid to go 1v1 against some of the top guys in MLS, so where does that come from?
It's just when I was growing up, you have nothing to fear on the field. You just go out there, play a game. Going at a defender, beating him, that's what I'm good at. That's what I'm going to keep doing.
How do you balance like homework, social life? Russell says you're on the Instagram photo thingies.
Yeah, it's hard, but the Caps are doing their very best to keep me in line with that. And also my mom's behind me, spanking me every time I don't do it.
Has it been a highlight for you thus far? A big highlight?
Yeah, a very big highlight. Being a pro at 16 years old is a big accomplishment.
So it was like when you scored that goal, when you first had your first cap, or what?
I think it's when I first had my first cap, when I came on against Orlando and run on the field. I couldn't believe it. I was actually a professional, but coming on it was a great opportunity.
How does it feel knowing you've got Man U, Liverpool scouts that are watching you?
They're a really top team, really good top team. But I don't really pay attention to that though. I just try to do what's in front of me, try to focus on what's in front of me at this point.
You got Ashley Cole in your pocket. What was that like? Was he chirping a bit? Say bye.
No, he was respectful. He wasn't chirping. He wasn't really talking to me. You know, we just play our game. Saw differences after the game. We said good game to each other and we left.
A few more questions. Have you had like an a moment on the pitch, or has a guy said, well, like guy's 16, or some guy said anything on the pitch where you got his respect maybe?
Yeah, probably against Tigres, Gignac. When I at the end of the game, when I split those two defenders, he came up to me. He's like, "Wow, you're a really good player. Keep going. Don't let anyone stop you." And thank you.
You've got a bit of a heritage in your background. Would you like to represent Canada on the international stage one day?
Definitely, Canada is one of the countries I will represent.
The country?
The country, sorry.
Yeah.
The country I would represent. Yeah, it's a great country to live in, to be in, and I'm glad that we came over here.
Do you have dreams of playing in England or Europe?
Definitely, every young professional player has a dream playing in the top team, in the biggest stage in the world. So I hope one day that's going to be me.
Who's your team on the FIFA?
On FIFA, it probably has to be Bayern Munich. I play with them, or Barcelona.
Thank you very much, Fonzie.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
So Harjeet Johal there talking to Alphonso Davies a few weeks back. Really want to thank Har for letting us use that on the show this episode. If you want to read the written version of that she did, you can find it on Red Nation Online. And you can read all of Har's stuff on Red Nation Online, also Equaliser Soccer as well, for all her coverage of the women's game. Follow her on Twitter at HarJournalist, that's H-A-R Journalist. And she's out east at the moment, watching the Canadian women as they play in Toronto in a couple of days' time. So she'll be bringing you all the news and recaps from that game as well, and some interviews. Always great to have her on the show. We never really got a chance to mention in the last episode, but the chat which we played with Tyrone Mears, that was what Har got after the game as well. Steve unfortunately ran out of time to put it into the show on Sunday, so I put it into the podcast, but I wasn't able to mention Har by that. So once again, thanks to Har. Give her a follow on Twitter. But Alphonso there is a new Canadian, as we said. Very exciting moment for him. It's been a long time coming. You could just see the joy all over his face in the videos and the photos that the Whitecaps released off that special day. And Alphonso Davies is a player that I know all Canadians are going to hope is a member of the national team for many, many years to come. When the World Cup comes to Canada, hopefully, in 2026, Alphonso will just be 25, and it's going to be phenomenal to see him take the pitch for Canada in that tournament. It's kind of crazy to think of a 25-year-old Alphonso Davies, because he's been 15 and 16 for so long. But he's one of the future stars for Canada. And one of the former stars of the Canadian national team was honoured recently. Paul Stalteri became the latest member of the Canadian Soccer Hall of Fame. Stalteri had a wonderful international career with Canada. The most A appearances for Canada, 84 in total. Won the Canadian Player of the Year in 2001 and 2004. Started his club career domestically with Toronto Lynx, went overseas, played in Germany with Werder Bremen, Borussia Mönchengladbach. Had spells in England as well with Tottenham and Fulham. But perhaps his most crowning achievement was being a member of the Canadian Gold Cup winning team in 2000. And we're going to end this episode with a conference call that Paul Stalteri had recently after his induction into the Hall of Fame. Really good chat with Paul about a number of different topics. It was myself, Daniel Squizzato, Stephen Sander and Richard Scott from the CSA that were on the call. So we're going to bring you that in full now. A lot of interesting things covered, as I said. So let's hear now from the newest member of the Canadian Soccer Hall of Fame, Paul Stalteri. thing I wanted to ask you about is I think that a lot of people are familiar with the heights that your career hit with the national team and in Europe, but I'm interested in how things got started, specifically the fact that you started out with the Toronto Lynx, the opportunity to play with a local team like that. And I also read that the first game that you recall watching live was an old Toronto Blizzard game. So taking those both into consideration, I'm kind of curious as to your thoughts about the what it means for a player to have those opportunities to see games live, to play for a local team, and how that helped you get to the places you reached in your career.
Yeah, well, obviously, thank you first and foremost, and secondly, when you look back those are referring to the old CSL days, where young kids, probably my son's age now, have an opportunity or had an opportunity like I did to go out and watch what was considered or what was the highest league in Canada and a Canadian league. Played with a few local teams, and we had the opportunity to go and watch that. And that's obviously remembering watching some of those games as a really young player, and it was great to see. At that time, you don't really know what you're watching. Obviously, when you're young like that, you're just watching what is the professional soccer game, and at that time, so you're not really probably realizing anything other than that. So that's what young kids do, and you see it through my son nowadays watching, and my daughter watching MLS games or local games, local MLS games that are here. Then the opportunity to watch those professional players play. It's something that the first kind of influence they got on their lives. So it's very important, and as a stepping stone to that, having the chance and the opportunity to play for a season with the Toronto Lynx, probably something very similar to what it would have been the Blizzards back when I was growing up, that kind of a level, was an opportunity for me at 19 years old to gain that professional experience and use that as a stepping stone into my first club in Europe.
Do you have any thoughts about what the announcement of the new Canadian Premier League might mean for the chance of other Canadian players to possibly follow in your footsteps in the years to come?
Yeah, I figured that's where you were going with it as well on my side. Obviously, any chance that kids at a certain age, and I think we have a bracket, it's no secret, where we have a gap where our kids are not playing at a good enough level, come a certain age in their development, and they need that in their development, and they need that to progress and start their careers. So definitely looking forward to having that opportunity and seeing it firsthand, and hopefully it coming to fruition in a big way, and that being one of the big cornerstones to developing Canadian football to the next level.
Wanted to ask, obviously Julian and now you have had such pioneering careers going to Europe and playing at extremely high levels in Europe, and we're not seeing Canadian players do that now. Is it that MLS has replaced it, or do you see a future where some other Canadian players are going to have those kind of Bundesliga, Premiership, or La Liga minutes?
Well, obviously, there's no doubt that the MLS has probably taken some of the players that might have gone overseas. I think one of the big factors to realize is just how difficult it is for players to go over there and succeed. I think we shouldn't. Yes, MLS has done a great job, and they've been able to manage to keep some of the top players here and play here. But we also have to remember not hide the fact too that it just shows you how difficult it is for players to play in Europe and make it over there as a career. So and that's just that shows what the players that came through, obviously without having the opportunity to play in the MLS, but going through that grind in Europe and trying to make their way through those European leagues, starting off in the small, sometimes small little countries or sometimes small little clubs in the league, in the lower leagues, and then building yourself all the way back up into the top divisions. It just shows how difficult that is, and would I like to see more of our top players maybe one day back playing in, like there was a time when we had a handful of players playing in the Bundesliga when I was there, and players playing in the Premiership and so forth. So is it something that you would like to see? I still think our top players could still very well do that, and something that would be nice to see as well, that some of the top Canadian players still playing in those top leagues. In my opinion, they're still the very best in the world are playing there.
The thing I hear over and over from Canadian players is that when you go over there, is you always feel the Canadian passport kind of puts a target on your back, that you might be the first guy cut, or the first guy to be moved aside if you're not at the top of your game at all times. Did you feel that when you made the move?
Yeah, that's part of the difficulties. Like I said, part of the difficulties of being over there and playing. I mean, you have to accept that you're not a Brazilian, you're not an Argentinian, you're not another European country. You are Canadian. We are where we are, and those are the things that you need to take in. And you sometimes have to take those hardships on the chin and those difficulties and not use them. And I tried never to use them as an excuse as to why you might have been not picked in front of a German player or in front of an English player or in front of another player with a different passport. You just got to use those hardships, those tough times, and use that as a motivation to continue to improve and to continue to develop. In the end, the bottom line is that the coach is going to pick his best players and his best players out there, no matter the passport, and you've got to be there, proving it each day and each week to do that. And that just it adds an element as to how difficult, like I said, how difficult it is to play in one of the top leagues in Europe, because not just that factor, but many of the other ones involved in that fierce competitive nature that exists there.
Looking back at your time with the national team, there's always a lot of talk as to whether the 86 team or the Gold Cup winning team was kind of the pinnacle of Canadian national teams. Looking at that Gold Cup winning team in 2000, what was it about that collection of players that just made it click in that tournament? And do you think we'll ever see that again to bring home the Gold Cup to the country?
Well, it was one of these. It was a group of players, but it wasn't even a big group of players. It was a real small group, considering nowadays, there's no squad that goes in there with less than 23 players, and we didn't even have near that, from what I remember for sure. So maybe that probably helped the group in terms of its closeness, its tightness. And then it's like any tournament. As things progress, the group gets tighter. You spend more time together. You advance to the next round. You build on that momentum. Then you get to the next round. You build on that momentum. And before you know it, you find yourself in the final and a well-deserved victory over one of the top team in the tournament at that time. So I think that comes as a process as you're working, as you're playing together. You're in the hotel as a group, and everyone is now. When you look back, it was a kind of there was a gap in the ages. It was our generation, my generation coming through with the older generation that blended in together fantastically throughout that tournament, and it just it was one of those things that everything came together at the right moment for us. Would I like to see, or do I think that run is again possible? Absolutely. Let's not forget a couple of just a handful of years later when we were competing at the semifinal level against US, and we're right there as well. So these tournaments, you never know with them and how you can build momentum throughout them. And I think that there's no doubt that there was a time in that era there where we were competitive in each and every Gold Cup we played in, and I see no reason why we can't think that coming up in July this year that we can't be competitive again and make a run for it and make it into the next round. And then from there, you never know when you're playing one-offs how games can go and how momentum can shift and lead a group. So I have no doubt that we can compete at that level again in those tournaments.
And obviously you're involved with the under-17s now and just been over at the World Cup qualifying. The teams at under 17 and under 20 level, they look stacked with talent, but when it comes to the big tournaments, they seem to just kind of not qualify or seem to not play up to their levels. What do you think it's going to take in this country to get the under 17s and the under 20s qualifying for the World Cup on a regular basis now?
Yeah, we have to. We're constantly reviewing and looking over and doing our, reviews on what's gone wrong, what we thought went right, what we can improve on, and what we have to remember is that now it's not like it was when I qualified back with our group in at the 17s and 20 levels, where teams are just getting together and putting their countries are just getting together and putting their team on the pitch. Countries like Cuba, like Panama, like Honduras, like Haiti, for example, they're together for a number of months and a number of camps leading into these games, and these are also reasons why you're not seeing these countries being steamrolled in qualifying anymore. You're seeing these countries put up competitive teams, and that makes that tournament all the more difficult. It's not just 2-3 teams to beat anymore. There's a number of teams. There are no easy games, no matter the opponent. And our boys found that out in qualifying just in Panama recently. So what we've got to do is we've got to continue to get these kids at that, on that stage and preparing them for the tournament and having them mentally ready and mentally set to be able to compete at that level. And it isn't easy, and those players are prepared. They're more prepared than they've ever been, and ours have to be at that level, not just mentally, physically. All these components have to come together at one particular time, and then you're playing, and then it's just a matter of the game itself. And then when you micro it down to what actually happened in that game and what actually happened in those key moments of a game that turned the tide one way or another. Sometimes it's a matter of the ball going one way or another, or one decision from a referee, or one decision from a player that leads to something bigger in the game. So sometimes, yes, you analyze the big picture, but you have to also look at what really took place on the pitch that day that determined the result as well.
You can just maybe highlight one or two moments wearing Canada red, playing for the national team. What were one or two key memorable moments throughout your career that you remember well from your playing days?
I think from bottom to the top, I'd go with if we talked about the youth teams first, obviously qualifying for two World Cups and being able to play in those two World Cups was definitely a highlight in my mind, in that group's mind. In that group, it was a really good generation came out then, and I think no doubt that those two were major highlights in the youth careers, and playing for Canada and being able to lead to go into two World Cups was a great achievement for us at that time. And obviously at the senior side, on one side of the question, one of the major disappointments for me, I'd answer it on a different way, was obviously in us not being able to make that proper run in World Cup qualifying. I still think that's something that I've always taken away as a big disappointment in one sense. In saying that, just because I believe that there was a group of players there for a number of years there where we were just as good as any other team in CONCACAF, and we really had a good, legitimate chance at making it into a good run at qualifying, if not qualifying, and that never really took place. So that's a bit of a bitter taste left for us not making it there. And on the other side of it, on the positive side, would be our highlights is Gold Cups, and obviously winning the Gold Cup and making another couple of runs at one third place finish, and then getting knocked out against the U.S. in the semifinal, which was a little bit bitter at one sense, but the quality of football we played in that tournament, I think, was probably one of the top that a Canadian team has played in the last 10-15 years in terms of the way we played that tournament and the results we did get. So those, I think, in a nutshell, would be it, really.
And, Paul, just to maybe extend a little bit on the Gold Cup, because, of course, that's just around the corner, and thinking back to that 2007 and even the 2009 team, what matters now is we kind of 1 month out. We've got a home match and then the Gold Cup. What's important right now for the current crop of Canadian players as you remember it, preparing for those Gold Cups in years past?
Well, it's preparation for sure, no doubt about it. It's it's a real tricky time. 2000 was different. That was in February, I believe, Rich. No, then January, February. I think that tournament took place. It was a much different. Situation than it is now. Kind of in the middle of the summer, boys just starting back. Would be just starting back with their clubs at the beginning of July, European-based ones, and then the MLS ones right in the middle of their season, kind of thing. So much different dynamic than it was back then. So in terms of where the players are, most of them at that time played in Europe as opposed to MLS. So we were preparing, getting ourselves physically prepared more than anything for that competition, and I think that is going to be the case for a lot of the European-based players, that they need to be physically fit and ready to go much earlier than they would have had to be on a regular season going into their clubs. So that's one challenging factor. And then the MLS players, obviously, with a bit of an advantage physically right in the middle of their season, being ready to go and coming in and having a balanced squad in terms of being prepared physically and getting the ones that are already prepared and putting that all in that puzzle together and getting them ready with a game before and going with a pre-tournament camp and having them having us ready, prepared tactically and again mentally, physically for that tournament. And like I said, in these tournaments, positive starts, positive results, they build momentum, and then from there you don't know where you can go, really.
Paul Stalteri there definitely deserves his place in the Canadian Hall of Fame. To be honest, I was actually a little surprised that he wasn't in it already. And Stalteri is currently the head coach with Canada's under-17 team, oversaw their recent, disappointing, it has to be said, CONCACAF qualification campaign for the 2017 under-17 World Cup. But he's enthused about the Canadian Premier League, as you heard there. And that brings me nicely to mention that our next episode of the show is going to be our 200th episode. It's not the 200th podcast that we've done, because we've got the extra podcasts, we've got the Mixlr stuff that we've done, but it is officially episode 200 of the AFTN Soccer Show. And to mark the occasion, we're going to have it as a Canadian Premier League special. We're going to look at all aspects of the Canadian Premier League, what it means to the game in Canada, what it means to the players here, what the chances are of there being a team in BC. And we've got a number of guests on the show. We're going to speak to the man who's overseeing all the business side of the Premier League just now, Paul Byrne. We're also going to speak to members of two of the supporters groups, Hamilton's Barton Street Battalion and the Halifax Wanderer supporters group. And there's maybe going to be a few more surprise guests as well. We're working on something particularly special that, if it comes off, will be fantastic. But if not, we'll allude to what it was going to be anyway. So tune in on Sunday for that. It will be live on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM if you're listening in the Lower Mainland, CITR.ca online, 11 PM Pacific time, that will be on air. Get your questions into us that you want us to discuss on the show. We'll discuss that live in the studio. And if you can't listen live, we'll have the podcast out on Monday. Really looking forward to this. It's going to be a special episode. But that is it for this episode 199. I'm Michael McCall. You can follow me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read our stuff away from the numbers, AFTN.ca. I'm also the Whitecaps beat reporter for MLSsoccer.com, so check my stuff out on that. But until next time, which will be Sunday or Monday, depending when you listen in, thanks for listening, take care, and mon the Caps and Canada. Bye, everyone.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.